Hey everyone, Ajay here, back with another video, and today I thought I will talk about a movie. So it's gonna be kind of like a movie review, and this is a movie I've watched recently. For those of you who don't know me, I am a photography enthusiast. I do take part in photography as a hobby. I wouldn't say I'm good at it or anything. I'm not a professional, but I do really like photography. As you uh, can see, I have a camera. I do take indulge myself in this hobby whenever I get time. And if you see me in real life, there is a danger of me talking about F numbers. So, being a photography enthusiast, I recently started looking for movies and documentaries that talk about photography. And there are a lot of documentaries, but movies about photography and photojournalism are there's not a lot of them. It's kind of rare, but I do look for them, and I have been looking for them, and that's how I found out about the Bang Bang Club. Now, the Bang Bang Club is a 2010 film, and it's a gripping historical drama based on real life events, and this is based on like the true story of four young photographers who documented the final days of apartheid in South Africa. And it documents the life of real life, like Pulitzer winning photographers Greg Marinovich, played by Ryan Phillip, and Kevin Carter, played by Taylor Kitsch, Ken Otersbrook, played by Frank Rautenbach, and I'm messing up the pronunciation, I'm really sorry. And Joao Silva, played by Niels van Jalswold, and this film follows their journey as they navigate the dangerous and chaotic landscape of the country post-apartheid period in South Africa. And they would capture powerful images that would become famous and iconic. Some of the photographs you might have seen in various places, and this is set between 1990 and 1994. And so, as I said, it focuses on the transitional period in South Africa as apartheid crumbles down, and the four journalists, who is collectively known as the Bang Bang Club, they capture haunting images of violence between rival factions such as African National Congress (ANC) and the Inkatha Freedom Party (IFP), while also navigating the ethical dilemmas of wartime photography. And the central character, I would say, or like where the main character that we follow is Greg Marinovich, and portrayed by Ryan Phillip, as I mentioned. And he is, like, in the beginning of the movie, is shown to us as a ambitious young photographer, and he ends up winning a Pulitzer Prize for a photo of a man being killed in Soweto. And again, it became one of the iconic photographies of the time, and of all time, one of the best war photographs of all time. And next, Greg Marinovich, who is portrayed by Ryan Phillip. I mean Taylor Kitsch's portrayal of Kevin Carter. That's what I wanted to say. Who also wins a Pulitzer Prize for. You might be more familiar with this photo, like it is famous everywhere and famous to this day, and something that a lot of war journalists and photographers even now point towards as one of the iconic and best photographs of all time, and captures a real harrowing moment of like a vulture stalking a starving Sudanese child. Now this, when I described it, I think a lot of you might have like understood the picture I'm talking about, you can Google it. So it's so iconic, like a starving child bending down and a vulture looking at the child, like waiting for, so and that photograph also became a controversy, which I'll talk about in a bit. But it explores, the movie also explores the emotional toll these photographers go through take, and Carter ends up struggling with guilt of being a wartime photographer, and it causes trauma in him and depression, which ultimately ends up in tragedy when he ends up taking his own life. And one more character I would like to mention is Malin Ackerman's role as Robin Comley, and this I feel like the character was a little bit underdeveloped. We could have explored her, like emotional state a little bit more, as someone who also been going through being around these photographers and witnessing all these things from her perspective. If it was like a little bit, I wish it was a little bit more developed, and yeah, I think that's about, like, these are the central characters of the film. And of course there is the characters of Joao Silva. Joe Silva, played by Niels van Jersvold, and Kane Osterberg, by Frank Rottenbach, who also did great job at portraying their roles, but the movie doesn't delve a lot into those characters as well. And yeah, so that's about the characters. And talking about the film and how it, the direction and everything. So the director infuses the film with a sort of gritty realism, because he didn't try to make it too dramatic or anything. He wanted the viewers to feel like what it's like to be there with them at that time. So throughout the movie, you basically feel like another photographer following them around and trying to capture all these images. Like, you're one of the people following them, and so you feel like you're there, and it kind of shows how real it can get, I guess. And the battle scenes are very gritty and visceral, and it also shows the dangerous and chaotic environment a lot of wartime photographers work in, and the directors uses a lot of handheld camera work, as I said, to make it feel like you are there, you are running behind them, you are with them, going through all these things. That I feel like was a nice touch. Shows how how dangerous it was there. Like, it feels that we are also part of all those experiences, and we are in danger. And like this, as I said, this film also shows a lot of these iconic photographs, and it like really spectacularly blend the visual medium of cinema with stark the reality of photography, if you know what I mean. And the director does this in such a graceful way that you don't even realize it. And this, I feel like that sort of filmmaking and movie making kind of is a very powerful reminder that the impact the visual medium can have on public perception on a lot of things. Because some of the iconic photographs of killings or whatever, so it's not just about, like one side, oh, this faction is killing this person from this faction, or because they have their own like reasons to fight, and one, we cannot say this X is good, this Y is bad. So it's all gray area. They are all fighting for their own reasons. So, but when a photograph comes out, it, as we know now, like when you hear something right now, especially in the age of internet, when you hear something, you immediately jump into, like, oh, that person is that, we frame them to be something, and when we hear the other side of the story, then our perspective suddenly shifts. So we know how that works really well now, especially now in the age of internet, and all the controversies. But it also showed, like, how these photographs, because the rest of the world was not there, so they don't see it, so they are only like the only piece of what is happening, or like the gruesomeness of whatever is happening in South Africa at that time was only through this photograph. So it's easy for people to form one opinion based on these photographs. So the film also, while focusing on like gritty reality of wartime photography and the positive impact the photography has made, it also shows the other side of it as well. Is it so? The film poses a very important question: is it explorative? Exploitative to document the suffering of people? So that's a question the film also put towards you. So it's not something that the film answers. So it's for us to decide after watching the film, and also delves into the, as I mentioned, the emotional toll that is put on these photographers during this war, during wartime photography, right? And things like PTSD and survivor's guilt, and what happens to the photographer Kevin Carter, what ends up happening to him, and being insensitized towards a lot of violence. There was a scene where basically Ryan Phillip's character, Greg Marinovich, goes to a village to see, like when he hears an information about a violence, and he goes there and see a child was murdered, and he takes photos of it while, like he was shown to be very insensitized towards it. He just wanted to click the photo. And he's like very used to seeing the violence, and that was like a powerful moment, and kind of like a stark contrast between his girlfriend, like who was with him, and she was like heartbroken and like crying seeing this, and he's just telling her, okay, please hold the light hold the light properly, please, and he was like very insensitized and like focused on it. So that kind of puts on this question, like that kinds of shows like the other side of it, the PTSD survivor's guilt, and the other side is being very insensitized towards all these things. That ends up happening to a lot of even soldiers or journalists and a lot of people who witness a lot of brutal things. But one of the criticism of the movies that arose was that it failed to explore the deeper and social historical factors of that was at play post apartheid period. Like I told you, it was not like a X faction is good, Y faction is bad kind of a thing. Like there's a lot of complicated political situation going on at that time. The film didn't really explore a lot on that. If it would lend a lot of perspective on that, but I wouldn't blame them for that a lot, because you also, this is a film after all, so there is a limit of you're limited to the overall runtime of the film. You can't delve in too much into that without the film drawn out long, or otherwise it would have been like more towards the documentary side. So can't blame too much for that, but I still feel like they could have explore a little bit deeper into that, but it's fine. The film generally received kind of mixed reviews, I guess, from critics. Some critics like praised the film on like its powerful performances and stunning and beautiful filmography with amazing camera work, like I said, which made you feel like you were there. It was you were literally put on the shoes, and again, like the main criticism was the lack of emotional depth and lack of deep dive into these socio-political situation that happened at that time, and some of the characters was not explored, which I also kind of agree with that sentiment, that some of the characters was not explored as deeply as some, like the main 3 or 4 characters. And another thing that it was like people criticized this movie about was that, especially a lot of photographers and wartime photographers, that it kind of portrayed photographers as, you know, very reckless and insensitive people, like from that example of like Greg going to the village. So a lot of people like felt like, you know, like how especially even the Bang Club, like they are not as, you know, brazen as it was portrayed in the film. Like photographers do actually like respect human life and everything, and they are not as brazen or like as you know, insensitive as they show it in the film. But I feel like they showed it a little bit, they dramatized it a little bit. I mean, they showed it a little bit more for the dramatic effect, you know, to dramatize it a little bit, to, you know, like nail in the message, I guess. That's the direction they've taken. I mean, it is a film after all. You have to have a little bit of dramatization to it, without again making it feel like a documentary or anything. But in conclusion, I would say this is a very thought-provoking film that delves into or gives us a glimpse of this dark period in during South Africa at that time, and it also raises a lot of important questions of role of media in war zones and conflict zones, and the ethics of photojournalism and journalism in general, which is relevant even today, as we all know. It doesn't like feed you, like spoon feed you anything like this is good or this is bad or anything. So it's given to you. So it shows both sides. It shows how important photojournalism is, how important capturing this image, the importance of capturing these images are, like to show the impact of these wars to the rest of the world. So the film equally gives importance to, you know, like why these photographs need to be made. At the same time, the film also puts towards us, like, is it ethical to do so? It also puts that question towards us, both these perspectives towards us. So it's for us to really decide, you know, like what is right and what is wrong. So I would say, like, this, if you're interested in photography, and if you're not interested in photography, but if you're generally interested in history or like that period in time, and if you generally like these sort of, you know, real gritty films that explores, you know, like these conflicts, which like apart from the photographs we didn't know a lot about, you know. So if you like that, I would say that this is a great film to watch, and a great film to sit on, analyze and think about, and which like ends up making you like research more into the post-apartheid period and what happened next. And yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I would give this movie a nerd rating of 7 out of 10. So it's a good movie. It's not perfect. It has its flaws, but it's a good movie. I enjoyed it. And yeah, so that's about it. Let me know in the comments section if you have any additional suggestions for good movies to watch, photography related movies, or like any general movies that you liked and you would like me to try. And I would try to watch it, and again, like, let me know my thoughts. So yeah, that's about it. See you next time.